Sometimes people vanish in ways that leave no room for logic. No ransom note, no signs of struggle, no goodbyes. Just a moment, a decision, and then silence. In these next 3 stories, you'll hear about real people who disappeared without a trace. Not into remote jungles or war zones, but from airports, highways, and towns surrounded by people. Each case is real. Each has been investigated for years, and each remains open, unsolved, and deeply unsettling. Let's begin. Brendan Swanson was 19 years old. Smart, responsible, with a dry sense of humor and big plans for college. On the night of May 13, 2008, Brendan had been celebrating the end of spring semester with classmates from the Minnesota West Community and Technical College. Nothing out of the ordinary. He wasn't drunk, he wasn't reckless. He left the party around 11:30 p.m. to drive home to Marshall, a small town in southwestern Minnesota. The drive should have taken less than 30 minutes. He never made it. Around 1:54 a.m., Brendan called his parents from his cell phone. His voice was calm but confused. He told them he had accidentally driven his car into a ditch and was stuck, but he was unhurt. He said he was near the town of Lind, about 10 minutes from home. He asked his parents to come pick him up. They got in the car and began driving towards where he said he was. All the while, they stayed on the phone with him for nearly 47 minutes. Here's where things turned strange. As his parents drove up and down graveled roads near Lind, Brendan repeatedly told them he could see lights in the distance. He assumed they were from the town. But no matter how many times they passed through the area, they never saw him. He never saw them. Frustrated, Brendan told his dad he was going to walk towards those lights. He was sure they led to Lind and they could pick him up there. He stayed on the phone as he walked. For 47 minutes, they talked. He sounded clear-headed, logical, not panicked. He described hearing water, fences, even a couple of barking dogs. And then, suddenly he shouted, "Oh, shh!" And the line went dead. His parents tried calling back, over and over. No answer. They assumed the phone died, or he lost signal. But Brendan never called again. He never showed up. No one ever saw him after that night. By morning, panic set in. Police were notified. At first they dismissed it. He was a legal adult, they said, and probably just ran off. But that changed quickly. His car was found. Not near Lind. Not near where he said he was. It was 25 miles away near Taunton, Minnesota, in a completely different direction. There was no damage to the car, no sign of struggle. And most disturbingly, it was in a remote, desolate area surrounded by open fields with no town lights anywhere in sight. So, what lights had Brendan been walking toward? He was completely disoriented despite sounding confident. Using cell tower pings, investigators reconstructed Brendan's path. He had actually been walking away from all towns and towards open farmland. And the path he seemed to be on led toward the Yellow Medicine River, a shallow but swift-moving waterway, especially during spring runoff. Cadaver dogs traced his scent to the edge of that river. Then it vanished. Divers searched the river multiple times. No sign of him. No clothing, no phone, no body. Nothing. Over the next several months, thousands of acres were searched, on foot with dogs, ATVs, helicopters, fields, rivers, drainage ditches, grain silos. No trace. One theory suggested he fell into the river and was swept away. But that's unlikely. It's not a deep river, and even if he had drowned, his body should have surfaced, or been found by now. It never was. Another theory is that Brendan was disoriented, got lost, and succumbed to exposure. But again, no remains have ever been found, and that area has been searched exhaustively. And he wasn't drunk or mentally ill. He sounded focused and rational. There are multiple questions that have no answers to this day. How was he so confident about his location? What lights did he see in the distance? What caused him to suddenly shout? The disappearance of Brandon Swanson remains one of the most unsettling modern missing person cases in the US. Not just because of the lack of clues, but because his voice was with us until the very end. He walked into the darkness, and the darkness never gave him back. Brandon's parents became advocates for missing persons' rights. In 2009, Minnesota passed the Brandon Law, requiring police to immediately begin investigating any adult reported missing under suspicious or dangerous circumstances, regardless of age. But for Brandon, the trail ends at a shallow riverbank. Lars Mittank was a 28-year-old German man who went on a summer vacation with his friends to the Bulgarian coast. He was healthy, happy, and active. A regular guy described by friends and family as cheerful and completely normal. They spent several days partying and relaxing in the seaside resort town of Golden Sands, near Varna. Nothing seemed off. Until the night of July 6, 2014. Lars got into a minor disagreement with some other tourists over football, the kind of scuffle that happens all the time in drunken holiday towns. But later that night, he became paranoid. He told his friends that some men were following him and that he didn't feel safe. He seemed agitated and afraid, even though no one else noticed anything unusual. He later claimed to have been punched by an unknown man and went to a local doctor complaining of pain in his ear. The doctor diagnosed him with a ruptured eardrum and prescribed an antibiotic, telling him he was temporarily unfit to fly due to the ear injury. His friends were ready to return to Germany the next day, but Lars insisted they fly without him. He said he would book another flight once his ear healed and would stay behind in Varna for a few days alone. They hesitated. He was acting strange, but he insisted. So they left. After his friends departed, Lars checked into a cheap hotel near the airport, the Hotel Color, in a rougher part of town. What happened next deeply disturbed both investigators and his family. That night, around 1 a.m., Lars called his mother in Germany, whispering that people were following him and trying to rob or harm him. He told her to cancel his credit cards immediately. She said he was whispering like he didn't want to be overheard. She asked him who was chasing him. He didn't say. She could tell he was terrified. He stayed the night at the hotel and left before dawn. Later that day, July 8th, Lars arrived at Varna airport to catch a flight home. He was seen visiting the airport medical office where a doctor was re-evaluating his eardrum to determine whether he could fly. According to the physician and a nurse, Lars was behaving very strangely. As they prepared to give him the final clearance, he suddenly stood up, muttered something about not wanting to be harmed, and bolted out of the office. What followed was caught on airport CCTV footage, which has since gone viral around the world. Lars is seen running out of the airport terminal, leaving behind all of his belongings, including his luggage, wallet, passport, and phone. He sprints across the parking lot, then jumps over a fence, and disappears into a wooded area near the airfield. He's last seen on video at 5:59 a.m., running for his life, arms flailing without shoes. That was the last confirmed sighting of Lars Mittank. Local police and search and rescue teams combed the forested area for days. Helicopters, dogs, volunteers, they found nothing. No body, no clothing, no trace of him entering another town. No confirmed sightings in the days that followed. His passport was still at the airport. He had no money, no way to travel legally, but he had vanished without a single verified footprint. Lars Mittank's disappearance had been analyzed across Europe. He was not previously known to have mental illness or delusions. However, some investigators believe that a sudden onset of psychosis, possibly triggered by the antibiotic, could have caused him to suffer hallucinations or paranoia. This drug is known to cause rare neuropsychotic side effects in certain individuals, especially when taken without food or under physical stress. Others believe Lars may have experienced a trauma-induced paranoid episode after the alleged assault. There is no police report or hospital confirmation of the fight he described, but his eardrum was indeed ruptured, meaning something happened. There is also speculation that Lars may have intentionally disappeared, though he left behind everything he owned. He had no history of instability or financial distress, and no digital footprint has emerged since. Finally, some argue that Lars may have run into criminal activity while staying alone in a dangerous part of Varna. But this theory lacks physical evidence. No witnesses saw him after the CCTV footage. His body has never been recovered. His family continues to search. Lars Mittang has become Europe's most famous missing tourist. His case is used in missing persons training and shared widely on forums like Reddit Unsolved Mysteries. The viral airport footage of him fleeing in sheer panic continues to draw attention from amateur sleuths and professional investigators alike. To this day, not a single credible trace of Lars has ever been found, not even a shoe print. Maura Murray was a 21-year-old nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Smart, athletic, deeply private. She was an honor student, former West Point cadet, and a talented long-distance runner. But behind the image of a disciplined young woman, something was unraveling. In early February 2004, she emailed professors to say there was a death in her family. That was a lie. There was no death. She then packed up her dorm room, withdrew money from her bank account, bought alcohol, and began driving north on Interstate 91 out of Massachusetts toward the White Mountain of New Hampshire. She didn't tell anyone where she was going. Not her boyfriend, not her family, not her friends. She was just gone. At 7:27 p.m. on February 9th, a resident of Woodsville in the tiny town of Haverhill, New Hampshire, called 911. A car had crashed into a snowbank on a narrow rural road known as Route 112. The car had veered off the road on a curve. It was a black 1996 Saturn registered to Maura Murray. Another neighbor, a school bus driver named Butch Atwood, stopped and spoke with her at the scene. He said she was shivering, appeared uninjured, and told him she had already called AAA, which was a lie since there was no cell reception in the area. She asked him not to call the police. He said he would anyway. He returned home and called them. He estimated she'd be waiting by the car. When police arrived at 7:46 p.m., less than 7 minutes after Butch's call, Maura was gone. The car was locked. The windshield was cracked. Airbags deployed. Her belongings were still inside: textbooks, clothes, the alcohol she'd bought, and a printed email about relationship troubles with her boyfriend. A Coke bottle in the car smelled strongly of liquor. There were no tracks in the snow heading into the woods, no blood, no sign of struggle, no sign that she had accepted a ride. It was as if she vanished into thin air in under 10 minutes on a cold, pitch-black night in sub-freezing temperatures. Dogs tracked her scent a few hundred feet up the road, then it disappeared, suggesting she may have been gotten into a car. But no one reported picking up a hitchhiker. No other vehicles were seen in the area. In the days before her disappearance, Maura had been acting increasingly erratic. She crashed her father's car just 2 nights earlier. She was caught using stolen credit card numbers to buy food. She'd been crying at work the day before she vanished, and when asked what was wrong, she simply said, "My sister." In reality, her sister had relapsed into alcoholism that weekend, and Maura was deeply upset. But no one knows why she would drive hundreds of miles into the mountains, lie about a family death, and vanish without telling a soul. One theory is that Maura intentionally disappeared, that she staged a crash and fled to start a new life, but there's no evidence of her ever accessing bank accounts, renewing identification, or contacting anyone. Another theory is that she succumbed to the cold, possibly after fleeing into the woods drunk or panicked. But extensive searches, including aerial scans, dogs, and thermal imaging, found nothing. In winter, bodies are often found in spring. Maura's never was. A third possibility is foul play. Some locals believe she may have accepted a ride from the wrong person. Others point to the extremely short window of time between the crash and the police arrival, just minutes, for her to vanish so completely. Still no witnesses, no screams, no vehicle sightings. In 2019, a basement near the crash site was excavated after cadaver dogs alerted there years earlier. Nothing was found. In 2021, bones discovered on Loon Mountain sparked renewed interest, but DNA ruled them out. They weren't Maura's. Maura's case became one of the first internet-driven true crime mysteries. Forums, blogs, podcasts, and even Reddit have poured over every detail of the case, analyzing her final days. Her family continues to search to this day, maintaining a website and attending annual searches. The FBI has an open missing persons file. The New Hampshire Cold Case Unit still receives tips. Over 20 years have passed. No evidence, no sightings, no remains, no answers. Just a Saturn in a snowbank, a girl who lied about a death in the family, and a 7-minute window that swallowed her whole. This is all I had for today. Thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, consider subscribing.